Hello everyone, my name is Margaret Lucero and today I'm going to be presenting my curriculum web to you. I decided to use the story A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park and having students connect that story to current world events that are happening around the world. So this curriculum web focuses on creating text-to-world connections between A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park and current world events. The students who will be using this curriculum web are 7th grade students. This curriculum web can be used by teachers who specialize in middle school English. The purpose of this curriculum web is to help students develop their skills of finding text-to-world connections. Also, because of the fact that the English classroom is a place for students to develop morals, the activities within this curriculum web will help students understand first versus third world issues, as well as the ability to empathize with those who are surrounded by situations that they have not encountered. It is important for students to be able to make these connections, whether it's text to self, text to text, or text to world. The activities that are included within this curriculum will lay the foundation that they will be using later in their education in order for students to develop these skills. Also, students will be able to become more aware of the world that they live in and develop morals such as empathy. In order for teachers to use this curriculum web, they will need to have read the story A Long Walk to Water with their students. Also, teachers will need a peer review checklist and a rubric to grade presentations with. Both of these are provided, however, teachers can use their own if they choose to. When they introduce this curriculum web, it's important for students to have an understanding of the text as well as a brief understanding of what's going on in the world. In order to do that, students will go to the student page and go to the introduction. Under here, they're going to be able to get a brief understanding and be introduced to the curriculum web as well as find out what they'll be working on this week. There's also a video that provides a visual representation of what's going to be happening. Under task, students are going to have kind of a brief overview of each of the assignments that they're going to be handing in, including a research project, a presentation, and some questions that they're going to be answering with their article that they're going to be reading. Under the process page, where they're really going to get a breakdown of what's happening this week, students will get an in-depth breakdown of each activity that students will complete, as well as what the expectations are for each submission. This is where they're going to be spending the bulk of their time going step by step through the activities. The first activity is watching 3 videos and making a paragraph, about 4 to 6 sentence paragraph, answering the 3 questions. What is something that stood out to you from this activity and why? And through closer analysis, how did the events in A Long Walk to Water compare to current issues? In the Syria video, the students are going to have a brief explanation of what is happening with the refugees in Syria as well as in Europe. In the second video, A Long Walk to Water, we have an explanation from the author explaining what was her motivation for writing this article for this novel and how she met Salva. And in the third one, Salva's story explains not only, Salva's journey through the text, but also the motivations behind him having to flee in the novel, because he is also a refugee. As they scroll down, they're going to be able to be introduced to the research current events, what they're going to be doing. They will need to read an article and in a separate Word document, answer the questions at the end of the article, and be sure to include where they got the information. So they'll be learning how to cite the article that they're reading. And then they'll need to hand this in for a grade. Now, at this link here, it will open up to the Students' Daily News. This is sponsored by the Times Magazine. So under here, all of these articles are articles specifically written for students. Students will be able to choose which one they'd like to read and then be able to talk about. There are multiple different options available to them. They can choose any of the ones that are currently here, as long as they're able to connect it in one way or the other back to the book. When they click on it, now these are articles written for students, so it's in a language they're going to be able to understand. There's also going to be pictures involved, and then there's also at the bottom here questions that they'll need to review what they read. Also, there's going to be background information about each of the countries that are involved in the article, as well as a video. So it really gives them an in-depth understanding of what is happening in the world and how those 3 countries are involved. Now, after they've submitted the questions that accompany each article, they're then just going to create a Prezi. Now, this Prezi is going to help them create text to world connections where they're going to be connecting their article to an event that happened in a long walk to water. The first step, in 3 to 5 slides, they'll need to be able to discuss the current event that their article is discussing, and they're going to talk about each of the countries that are in their article and explain the connection to the event. And then they're going to be choosing an event from a long walk to water, and in 2 to 3 slides, summarizing the event and explaining the connection between the book and what's happening in the world today. After they've created their Prezi, they're going to have a peer review session. And with a partner, they're going to go over each other's Prezis to make sure that everything is working out perfectly. And there's a peer review checklist available to teachers if they would like to use this. The next day, students will be presenting their current event presentation to the class. There isn't a rubric available, however, teachers can use their own if they feel the need. Here's where the teachers are going to be able to get their specific information. Under the Introduction tab, teachers are going to be able to be introduced to what's going to be happening briefly in the curriculum web. And they're just going to kind of, under learners is where they're going to start to get a little bit more understanding. You know, who this is for, what it's going to do. Under the standards, they're going to find out they can go right to the standards and see what standards they meet best for here. Under process is where they're going to be able to have a breakdown of each activity. A little bit more in depth than the student one, actually. Under the lessons, there are 5 lessons available to teachers to use, one for each of the days of the curriculum web. They are linked, and teachers are able to use those. Under resources, this is where teachers are going to be able to get the peer review checklist and the Prezi presentation rubric. Under evaluations, now the third aspect of this curriculum web includes the professional development that I developed for this particular class. Now, teachers will be able to access this information under the professional development. There's an introduction vodcast that I have posted here that I used Prezi as the basis for. It goes over each of the each model that is used for the professional development. My professional development is focused around the peer review, peer mentoring model that will help teachers work together in order to integrate technology successfully into their classrooms. There are 3 different models. There is the Microsoft peer model, there is the peer mentor model, and there's the Raise the Bar model. Departments can choose which one works best for them and be able to create an action plan that will allow them to fully integrate technology within their department and within their classrooms individually. And they're going to be working together and create a collaborative event that will help them do it together rather than individually. Now, I developed 2 lesson plans for this professional development. I did one for the AM and one for the PM. The AM one is mostly focused around introducing each of the models and giving teachers information and having case studies that teachers can talk about within their departments and kind of decide which one works best. And the PM lesson plan is where teachers are going to be introduced to the different trainings that are available to them in regards to technology and how those are going to connect for each subject area and how those can be used within each model as well. The second part of the PM lesson is where teachers are going to be just working with their departments to create their action plan. And it goes through where they're going to be working with their administrator as well as within their department to create that action plan that will help them integrate technology. After teachers have done that, they can go to the resources. They're able to access any information as well as be able to contact me if they have any questions or concerns. This is my curriculum. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all for your attention.